the Muslim Women's Story Lab. So the Muslim Women's Story Lab, as Sister Aisha Al-Adawiya already mentioned, was a Women in Islam initiative that used the theater of the oppressed techniques in order to create an alternative space for Muslim women to share their stories and talk about the forms of oppression, sometimes subtle, sometimes not so subtle, they deal with in their everyday lives. This was an 11-week workshop. The experience for me as a participant was a moment of both discovery and recovery. It was a moment of discovery where I saw myself through the eyes and voices of other Muslim women. It was the realization that ultimately our stories are all connected. They communicate our love for the Muslim community, our pain at not being heard sometimes, and at our preoccupation with the public space, at how to inhabit the world as Muslim women without feeling judged and dehumanized, at how to counter those moments of aggression, often unintended, when in the eyes of others we are rendered as devoid of agency and joy because of our religion. The Story Lab was also a space of recovery for many of us. For many of us disconnected from our communities and our daily existence, the Story Lab became our home. I saw the faces of my grandmother and my mother in the faces of the women around me. It was a chance to connect across generations and learn from each other. It was also an exercise in empathy as we put ourselves in each other's shoes to see how each one of us navigates the public space against Islamophobia, either as a mother, a wife, a worker, an artist, a public speaker, etc. We express ourselves through various activities such as painting, acting, and visualization. And because of the constraints of time, I will describe two activities the group engaged in: a painting exercise around the theme of Islamophobia and a visualization exercise around the theme of mosque access. So we had to paint this, and each one of us in the group basically painted something that reflected her vision for the Muslim community. So I'm going to talk about that briefly. The painting celebrated the women's love for each other and for their communities and for humanity. One participant drew an impression of herself sailing in a multicolored boat. Others drew images of themselves flying in the sky like birds and butterflies. Another participant drew an image of herself as a microorganism floating in the large cosmos of humanity. Another drew a self-portrait of herself, joyous and happy in a bright scarf and jewelry. And a few drew houses with big windows and schools and libraries and playgrounds because they wanted their children to live in a world with limitless horizons where they have access to education and opportunity. The second activity, which was a collective exercise of visualization around Muslim women's mosque access, we enacted the vision of a mosque where women could go and pray without being told that they have to go behind the curtains, that they have to sit in the back of the mosque or by the storage room as if they were an afterthought or as if their spirituality was inferior to that of the men. Instead, we envisioned a space where women share the mosque space with the men, a space where they can also lead the prayer and be imams, respected by both men and women. This exercise prepared us to walk